This is a pre-recording for Lecture 8 for Safety 483, Occupational Safety Management. As you can see from the D2L page, I'll try to increase the... in this lecture, we're going to visit the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, look at their reports, extend on our discussion of incidence rates, and I'm going to introduce the concept of injury ratios. I'll be opening the PowerPoint in a moment. Your quiz 6 is due by Sunday at midnight to D2L Dropbox. Here's study sheet 8 for lecture 8. This is the 2016 report of Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries, showing the 2015 final fatality data. The 2016 Survey of Injury and Illness report for the 2015 injury and illness cases that were reported. I also have a link to, excuse me, a lecture on, that should be series, that's incorrectly spelled, about injury surveillance. So it kind of talks about how the injury data is collected and analyzed. You also have 3 readings. One is by Rebbit on injury ratios. Manuel also has one, Fred Manuel, by on injury ratios. And then there's one on indicators by Wachter, professor at IUP. So that's the assignment for lecture 8. So let's open up the PowerPoint. I got to bring it onto the screen so you can see it. And we're going to spend a lot of the time on the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. Here's a rundown of everything. So first, I'm going to show you how to go in there and show you some of the data that's immediately expressed. They have a summary of the most recent CFOI and SOII reports. And then what we'll do is I'll dive in and I'll show you where those reports are and how to look things up, and that will be used both on your study sheet and more importantly on your quiz that's due Sunday night at midnight again to D2L Dropbox. The first thing I want to show is that there are rates. They do counts or number of cases, and then they do rates. When you're looking at the CFOI or for fatalities, it's the number of deaths or fatalities per I believe that's supposed to be 100,000. Excuse me, that's incorrect. I'll go back and correct that. Really quick, and I'll even show you on the report. It's per 100,000 full-time equivalency or full-time employees, whereas the incidence rate is per 100 employees. And we'll verify that. I can't believe I messed that up already. Just started the darn lecture. So in the fatality data, again, it was released December 16, 2016, so you can verify it at the top of the report. It's a news release. We want to investigate the top causes of fatality, what changed from 2014, what is the current U.S. fatality rate, is it going up, going down, staying consistent, which industries are most fatal, and what are some of the interesting facts we can learn. On the other side, the non-fatal injury and illnesses, that news release was October 17th of last year. We'll look at some of the incidence rates for all industries, including government, and I'll break that out. We'll look at it by state, we'll look at it by size of company and things like that. And we'll make some judgment calls on whether, which incidence rates are best representative, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about under reporting, under recording type stuff. So I hope you can see this, www.bls.gov. You probably can't, it's probably on a little screen. But I'll try and increase what you see here. So this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, housed under the United States Department of Labor. In the last lecture, we talked about the record-keeping standard in which they allot for companies to collect data, injury data. So under subjects, in the center column near the bottom, we've got workplace injuries. Click on that. And now we're at the Injury, Illness, and Fatalities page. Like I'd indicated just a few moments ago, over on the right, they've got summaries of the most recent reports. This is from the SOII report. This is the non-fatal injury and illness. It's got the total number of recordable cases. Again, this is an extrapolation. They do a sampling from all these different industries, and then they extrapolate out. So that's an estimate. That's not actual. They break it down by involving days away from work, median days away from work, case involving sprains, strains, tears, back, slip, trips, and falls. Go down a little further, and we've got the fatality data. So this is more of an accurate depiction because they have a preliminary and then they verify it. Got roadway accidents, number 1 cause of fatalities. Slip, trips, and falls at 800, I believe, is number 2, and then violence or homicides is number 3. But they may have different classifications in the reports. Over on the left, you can go through and choose, different pieces of information. If we wanted some of the CFOI information, see, it's right there. We have reports, and you get news releases. So there's a lot of information here, and I do want you to come in here and play around. And the I thought that was a December release, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, there it is. So here's the CFOI. I don't like that version. I like the PDF version. So I'll click on that. And you can choose what you want. And I do have this report posted on the D2L for you. And so you should just read. And what did we find out right away? This was the total number of 2015, a slight increase of approximately 15. And then you can read what the statisticians are talking about. Here we go. So the fatality is per 100,000. So I want to just make sure we correct that. I don't know where I got the 10,000 from. That may have just been, so it's per 100,000. It's the rate, number of fatalities per 100,000. Full-time equivalencies are, yeah, just verified. Now that's where we are. And you see it's in the same sort of MAC format as an incidence rate. So comparably, for every, in some ways, for every non-fatal, there's for every fatality, there's 1,000 non-fatals. That's kind of the general comparison. And so you can see here it's by wage and salary, and it's just other interesting things: worker characteristics, type of incident. It's so transportation incidents is the number one cause, but roadway incidents are majority of that. Slip, trips, and falls. Falls are lower, the level of the greatest amount there. Third is contact with objects. Excuse me. So sometimes these switch around. See how close they are. So violence is a little bit down. And I think we're going to be able to determine why. Let's see, what's the most dangerous industries? Well, drivers, I mean, they have the greatest count, but from a rate perspective, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. The number one by rate are logging workers. Second, you ever seen the deadliest catch? Airplane pilots, flight engineers, roofers. So you can look at this stuff. It's interesting, and this is stuff you should know, and this is stuff you should track. Number and rate by industry sector. What was this? This was by occupation. Sorry, civilian occupation. So industry-wise, construction, most die, but they're not the most frequent. The most frequent goes to agricultural forestry, fishing, hunting. So that the occupation into the industry kind of makes sense. So number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. From a rate perspective, construction's number 4. And I believe these rates are still based on the 100,000. Yes, it is. And you scroll down, you find more information. So I'll expect that you're going to go through, and it's got broken down by age and self-employed versus wage, men, women. So you should look at this. This is interesting stuff. They also tend to have charts for us that we can look at. Let's see, fatality charts and tables. Let's look and see what the final data says. That's not what I wanted. Let's see what this says. So it shows it over time. We had a little bit of a dip here, and now it's coming up again. So in 2015, again, we just saw this table. So change from 2014 to 2015. So we went up by 15. We had just talked about that. Now, why did it go up? Well, we had 70 more transportation incidents, fatal incidents, than we did in 2014. So that's a lot of it. Exposure to harmful substances were also up. What was down a lot was violence. Then we had slip, trips, and falls, and fires. So it's just interesting to see from year to year, and maybe even over time, you could look that up, what that might be. So falls to lower level. This is just interesting stuff. So that's the fatality stuff, and I want you to play around with that. I'm going to go back to the home page. Okay, back to the home page. Now I want to look at the non-fatal stuff. So I can go right down here. This is where I was just a moment ago. You could look at it up here as well. I could go to the non-fatal and get to the SOII page. That's what this is. See, it says report right there. Scroll down, I can read about it and see what's here. I guess they don't have any really good report links, but at least you can learn more about it. So we've got the non-fatal news release by industry. I believe this one should have come out in October, but I'd like the PDF version, please. Oh, it's not going to give it to me? That's bogus. Let's see. Featured products. Non-fatal by industry. Oh, that's not what I wanted either. Sometimes they put things on this page. So news releases. I believe it was the October. That's what I wanted. I'll take the PDF for that. That's the news release for the SOII report. This is also posted on the D2L page. You can see that they are estimating about 2.9 million non-fatal injury and illnesses. I believe that's just private industry. Yeah, it's just for private industry. It's go a little bit higher if you add in government. We'll look at that in a moment. Uh, let's see. Again, it's per 100 versus 100,000 from before. Did they say anything about from year to year? Well, we can look down here at chart 1. You can see they started in 2003, or that didn't start. It's just that's where this chart begins. It goes to 2015. That's approximately when they switched from SIC to NAICS. And you can see this has gone from 5 to 3. But there's a good, a pretty regular 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3 until 2009. That's when we kind of had the U.S. Economic depression, and then went down by 1, 1, same, 1, 1, and now went down 2 again. That's interesting. Maybe that's a sign that things have picked up. But then we can look at the individual incidence rates that go into the total case. The total case, remember, from if we look at the OSHA 300 log, it was columns H, I, and J. And you may be scrambling for an OSHA log right now to see that. But so red is DART, so that's H and I. The square, that's just J. I'm sorry, the star is just J. The triangle is just I. And the 0.7 is, oh, I'm sorry, the triangle is just H, and that is just I. So we have H, I, J, H and I, and H, I, and J. Maybe we'll go over that in class next week just so I can lay it all out for you. I can't believe we're already 11 minutes in. Okay, so this is by size of company. One thing I want to say about this is, remember when we talked about the record keeping? 10 or less, you don't have to keep logs unless something severe happens, or if your company is on that non-exempt list by NAICS. And so these are lower. Then it goes up considerably, almost twice when you go up from 11 to 49 employees, and then another, not as big of a jump, but still another big jump to the 50 to 249, and then you get a slight decline. Well, actually, that went up, that went up, that went up. So it goes up again with the 100,000. What's interesting is when you have smaller companies like these are small contractors or companies that are just starting out. You typically don't have a safety professional, but you all talk to each other, which is why I believe that communication, good communication, understanding each other, and being responsible, having control over your work, tends to be a greater, puts you in a position to be able to control things and not get hurt as much. But then when you get to here, it's a little bit larger and people don't talk as much, and maybe people don't understand as much, and therefore I think there's a jump. And then when you get to here, this is when you really need to have a full-time safety professional, but maybe you don't know it yet. Then you have a safety professional, things go down, and then here, that's just really high. What's interesting is when you think about incidence rates, the total number of hours worked, you're going to have a lot more hours worked here. You're probably going to have a lot more management, a lot less riskier hours. The riskier hours are going to be a greater percent down here, which is interesting. So it's just breakdown, and I don't know. It's just interesting stuff to look at. This is by private industry, state government, and local government. As you can see, private industry is lower, except for right here on the days with job transfer and restriction. It jumps up above, at least it jumps up above state government, but it's still below local. So local is the highest on each one. And then you have state, and then you have, again, private industry. There's probably multiple reasons for this. Local government probably has the lowest number of workers, and probably most of those workers are doing risky hours, so therefore it's a little bit higher. State government, that's the interesting one. There's a lot of people in state government. There's a lot of hours there, but again, it's higher except for right here, which when you compare it to private industry, what's interesting is private industry, there's more of a financial motivator, and also they're the ones who tend to get more cited or inspected by OSHA versus state and local government. Federal OSHA isn't going to inspect state government. They're supposed to self-regulate. So there may be a slight, there may be a motivation to underreport what's going on, except for the restricted transfer, because there's a motivation from a work comp perspective to try to move things from days away to here. There's a big financial motivator, and so that's why we may be seeing that. So just an interesting thing, and I think it kind of demonstrates motives for underreporting, especially to OSHA. You don't want them showing up. So here's by state. It's just sort of interesting. Some states don't have anything, and I don't know why. It says state rate not available. These tend to be, they tend to be reliant on the dominant industries in those states. What was it? Construction is up. I think that's why maybe up here we have a lot of construction, logging, fishing. That's over here. Louisiana is considerably lower. I don't know. And then we get all the way to table 1. This is where I wanted to bring you. This is where you're going to be looking things up. This is where you're going to calculate your company's incidence rate at some point in the future, and for my project that I'm going to be giving to you, and then you're going to have to compare it. So this is just for the 2015. So you compare your 2015 data to the BLS 2015 data. So you need to know your company's North American Industrial Classification System code, NAICS. This is actually a 6-digit code, if you were to ask a company for it, but they don't go down to that sort of detail. So we've got a 2-digit detail, which is the first 2 digits, which is this whole big agricultural, forestry, fishing, and hunting, and then 111. You add another digit, it gets a little bit more specific. So there are, sort of sub industries under major industries. And they also provide a collection. So all of these together, so the 111, the 11 and the 21s combine as natural resources and mining. So there's 37. The goods producing, you have got natural resource, you've got construction, you've got manufacturing. So you can look at it different ways, but when you go into these big broad categories, they are just categories and they don't have their specific code. What I want to call attention to is the all industries, including state and local government. So this is different than what we looked at before, because what we looked at before was the 3.0. That's what the front page of the news release gave us, and that's what they were talking about. But when we include state and local government, and we looked at the chart and how it's higher, it actually goes up to 3.3. So this is the total recordable cases. That's the total case incidence rate. So this is H, I, and J all added up in for everything, and so it's 3.3. That's the national average. And then we've got the total cases with days away, transfer, and restriction, which you can find here. It's DART. This is the DART rate, DART incidence rate, 1.7. That's just columns H and I. So everybody who reported, state, local government, industries, H and I, added up, send it in. They plugged it in, extrapolated, and so the average is 1.7. This is cases with days away. So this would be your LWDIR, the lost workday incidence rate. This is just the job transfer rate. So we've got H, we've got I, and we've got J, other recordable cases. So this is H, I, and J. This represents H and I. This represents H, I, and J. So if you were to add up these, it's supposed to equal that, but rounding errors. So again, this is total case, H, I, and J. If we were to compare it to an OSHA log, 300 log, excuse me, this is the DART, so it's just H and I. This is H, this is I, this is J. So now you kind of see, if we want to interpret and compare to our own company, that's how you can do it. So private industry is a little bit lower. So if I give you an NAICS, what you should be able to do is say I said 236, you go, oh, that's industry of construction of buildings. Their total case incidence rate is 3.1. Their DART is 1.8. There you go. And we're in 2015, and so the numbers are lower than they were before, and you can look back at back to 2003, I think, and compare it. What I want to do is get all the way, see the numbering, it goes, sequential, all the way up to 8.13. Then it goes to state and local government. So that's all state and local government. It's 5.1, 4.2, 2.4, excuse me. Just state government is 3.7. And there should be just local government. Let's see. There's local government. It's 5.6. And then you can see. So there are NAICS codes for just local and state government. And what you can do is you can actually compare the, more specific industries to, and we'll do that in class. That sounds really fun for me. We'll compare those. But so don't get too confused. Don't just start looking for numbers. You want to make sure whether you're looking in private industry numbers or state and local government numbers. Okay, so that's the SOII report. And go back. Now, if you want to see older versions, what we can do is we can go to national data and non-fatal by industry, and we can go all the way back to 1994. But these reports are very, very different than the 2003 on. So if I want to see 2003 numbers, I go to the summary in PDF, and it's a similar laid out report. There's just some different tables and charts. and then we get to the table 1. It's incidence rates. See, they don't have the private industry plus state and local government. They didn't collect that back then. And here they, it's a little bit different layout, but this is still total case incidence rate. This is still DART incidence rate, and then on down. So again, H, I, and J from the log. This is H and I. This is H. This is I. This is J. And then you can kind of see the numbers as we go down. Okay, I see we're already getting some double digits for the total cases. I don't think we have any double digits darts. That'd be interesting though, to me. So we'll be playing with that more in class, but what I want you to do is be familiar with being able to find this kind of stuff, because you need to do it for the quiz and you need to do it for your study sheet. So become familiar with BLS. Play around, read things. We'll also be talking about some of the undercount research here. I'll refer to one here back at the PowerPoint, but you need to come here and play around. That's the only way to learn it, is to come here and play around. You look at the publications. There's a lot here, and only through going in and playing will you become familiar with it. Oh, we're already at 21 minutes. I apologize. So it's not supposed to be this long. So we basically answered most of these questions, I think, just by playing around. So there's a paper that I could get you, but it is long, by Rosenman, that was published in 2006. And what they did is they compared the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the current national surveillance data, to the state of Michigan data. And what they found is, what the determination, the results were, is that they calculated that the current national surveillance system, which is what we just looked over, did not include 61%, and with capture, recapture analysis, up to 68% of the work-related injury and illnesses that occurred annually in Michigan. Did not include 61% to 68%. So what they're saying is that the reports we just looked at, the incidence rates, were actually a third, approximately a third of what really occurred, at least for the data sets that they compared. Why would companies underreport? What are they underreporting? Let's talk about that more. It's much easier to reclassify, to use 29 CFR 1904 to justify not reporting something that is first aid-ish. And so therefore the check under the column J, the other recordables, so it's supposed to be more than first aid. It's much easier to reclassify things to not report that. It's a little bit more difficult to not report something that is restricted transfer or days away. As I told you in class, there's an example of how a company took days away cases and made them restricted transfer. That would explain one of those charts, why the private industry is a little bit higher there. They try to move the days away to the restricted transfer. But when we do the DART incidence rate, it includes both. And so moving one, reclassifying H to I isn't gonna change your DART rate, but by lowering what you put under J is going to lower your total case incidence rate. And it's that consideration based on the underreporting that Rosenman gave us, and the principles of what I've observed and what I'm telling you. We can start looking at ratios. And what I'd like to propose is comparing no lost time to lost time. This can be used, it's meant to be used using, you're supposed to use the OSHA log. But we can use incidence rates as well, and I'm not sure if I justified here. I think I usually write that on the board, so I'll have to do that in a moment. But remember when we talked about Heinrich? He had his pyramid, and it's not right. We know that it's not law, but it was 329.1. That was near miss to minor to major. Well, if we were to try to convert that into the OSHA log, the 29, the minor, could be first aid. So that's the other recordable. That's our column J. The 1 is a major. And a major could be just days away. It's definitely fatality, but it could be days away. But we may as well put restricted transfer in there because, some places, some companies are really good with early return to work. And as long as the worker can sit up and move a little bit, they can make a days away a restricted transfer. So based on that assumption I just gave you, we should have for every 30 entries, 29 of them should be under J, and only 1 should be under H and I. And we know we're now nowhere near that. But again, that was, that may be a misinterpretation of what to plug in. If you remember an earlier lecture, Frank Bird had done a ratio as well. And he had 600 near misses to 30 property damage to 10 minor to 1 major. So he's more of a 1 to 10. So for every 11 injury and illness cases, 10 of them would be checked under J, the other recordable, first aid or more than first aid, and there'd only be 1 under either days away or restricted transfer. And we know we're nowhere near that as well. But we can actually look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics data, which I'm going to do in a moment again, to come up with our own ratio based on national data. I hope I didn't close it. I didn't, so lucky. So we'll go by the most recent, and I'm just completely messing this up. So 2015, I'm going to bring this up here, then I'm going to bring up a Word document, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so if we were to go all industries, state and local government, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but the total case incidence rate is 3.3, and the DART is 1.7. So 3, 3, and 1.7. And I'm going to bring up a Word document here and show you what I'm talking about. Of course, it went on the other screen. I'm going to have to increase the size so you can see what I'm talking about. So 2015, all industries, including state and local government. So the total case incidence rate is equal to 3.3. The days away restricted transfer incidence rate is equal to 1.7. And just so we start getting the taxonomy down, that's how I use it. Some people call it DART rate, somebody call it just total case rate. People change it around, but that's really what it's broken down to, and I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics report agree with me. So we've got 3.3, 1.7. I hope you guys can see this. And I want to do the injury ratios. So I had proposed a no lost time to lost time ratio for determination of how things are going. The total case incidence rate, if you recall, this includes columns from the 300 log of H, I, and J. H being days away, I being restricted transfer, and J being other recordable, which is more than first aid. The DART, on the other hand, includes columns from the 300 of H and I. And I should also, it's a sum of these, so I will be more. Okay? And we also know that an incidence rate, I'm going to kind of do a comparison here. No lost time, no lost time. Real quick, above this, getting ahead of myself. Incidence is equal to the number of cases. So basically what you add up from the columns times by 200,000 divided by hours worked. Yes. So no lost time is column J. That's our, the minor, or I'm sorry, the no lost time is the minor. Yeah, they can go back to work, but it was a minor injury. And so the no lost time is just column J. And the lost time is columns H and I, because either they had to stay home to recover, or they came back to work and they couldn't do the job. They were injured severe enough that they couldn't do the original job as prescribed. So if we look at this, the J versus the H and I, we've got H, I, and J, and we have H and I. So one way to look at it from an incidence rate is that if we had the total case incidence rate and subtracted the DART incidence rate, now that doesn't, so we subtract it, that would be the same as comparing it to the DART IR, where we have no lost time is just J. So this is J, H, and I minus H and I compared to just H&I. This is the lost time. So that's how we can look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and come up with a national all industries, including state and government, injury ratio. So TCIR, based on that, is 3.3 minus 1.7, and that's compared to 1.7. That comes down to 1.6 to 1.7, which is, is approximately a 1-to-1 ratio of minor to major injuries. So what we expect to see based on the BLS, and again, this is underreported, so this is very conservative. If you recall, Heinrich would have said it was 29-to-1. Bird said it was 10-to-1. Nationally, we're saying it's 1-to-1. Rosenman said underreport, by 60%, by two-thirds. Well, I'll call it, we'll go 65%. So it's only a third. And if it's difficult to classify lost time restricted as other, then it's easier just to not put other. And so if we were to add on a third, two-thirds of what's here, and you were considered, let's say we have 2 cases, and so another two-thirds of that. Well, let's go out of 10. So if we were to go out of 10, I'm just giving you an example. If we were to go out of 10, and we're saying it's 5 to 5, but we were to increase the hold on, I'm just recordable cases. I'm trying to give you a scenario here. Oh, and man. So scenario. I hope you're following this. So scenario, so out of 10 recordable cases, if it was a 5 to 5, but if we were to increase it by two-thirds of that, which is approximately 6, we'd add that 6 to the no lost time, and that would be 11 to 5 then. And that would give us approximately a 2-to-1. So a non-conservative is a 2-to-1 ratio. But we're going to use 1-to-1 because that's more conservative. If we're finding when we analyze an OSHA log, and this is what I mean, and we can look at it in industry perspective too. If a company's OSHA 300 log, if you analyze and compare columns J to H plus I of a company's commission log, and their no lost time to lost time ratio is greater than 1-to-1, which is what I mean. What I mean by that is, in effect, 1 to greater than 1, so like a 1-to-2, then we suspect under reporting, or under recording, which is not putting it down. That we only suspect it because maybe it's just a very dangerous workplace, and that if you do get exposed, what we have here is if you get exposed to a hazard, you are more likely to sustain a severe, which is a days away or restricted transfer injury, than a no lost time or first aid-ish injury. Okay? That's what it means. And to me, when you do the ratios and you do have it 1 to greater than 1, 1 to 1.5, 1 to 2, 1 to 5, whatever it is, you just get exposed and it's severe. There's going to be time loss. There's going to probably be a work comp case out of it. That, I believe, is a more dangerous workplace than one in which it is something like up here where it's 10-to-1. So I have 10, just more than first aid, we go back to work, versus 1. But this one's total case incidence rate would be much higher than this one because of how the numbers go in. So I think injury ratios give us another way to view injury data, specifically OSHA log data. And if we suspect that a company is underreporting, that's indicative of something even deeper, that management isn't committed to really understanding and studying the injuries in order to prevent future ones. They rather just hide them. So that's something that we're going to be talking about in this class and using in this class. So I just want to go back to the PowerPoint quick. I can't believe it's 35 minutes. I am so sorry. I didn't want to go this long. So this is what I'm saying on the screen here is we have a way to suspect it, and it's the 1-to-1 conservative estimate based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics SOII report. So as I had stated before, this class is based on quality management principles. And if you looked at any of Deming's work, in order to truly understand a process and in order to improve a system, you have to have measures of it, valid, reliable measures, and then you track that and trend that over time, and you find out where improvements need to be made, or more critically need to be made in order to reduce the chance of an unwanted outcome. And in our case, that's exposures to injuries. We can also, we're just starting to scratch the surface here. I mean, we're calculating incidence rates, we're comparing them to industry averages as per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we're starting to look at injury case ratios, to determine, is there a possibility this company is maybe not reporting anything? But if they are reporting everything, wow, this is this workplace is a little bit more dangerous. I have a much greater chance that if I even get exposed to a hazard, it's going to be severe, where I'm going to have to stay home and recover, or the doctor is going to give me a restriction, or I need to be transferred to a different job because I can't do my original job because I got hurt so severely. So this will be something we carry on in future lectures. So that's kind of wrapping it up. I'm going to go back to here. And so here's the PowerPoint, and you should have been taking notes the whole time. I hope you did, because it's really important. Here's the quiz that you need to take, and it's due by Sunday. As you can see, we answered actually a bunch of this stuff, and I gave you the way into here, but you do need to read the Revit. I like that article quite a bit. I will save this and I will put it on the D2L so you have another reference. And then I've got the fatality report, the SOII report. I've got this other lecture if you want to hear more about the injury surveillance, and then we've got the 2 other articles you're supposed to read. This is an old demo. It's too short. This new one I just made is much better, so I may get rid of that. So that's the end. So next week we'll continue with this, and we'll be moving into actually calculating incidence rates and analyzing data over a period of time, over several years, and then trending and forecasting it.